to go. There it is, the checkered flag, our champion for 1995, Steve Lamson.
Last season, it was the 125s that came down to the final event. Steve Lamson winning the title in the final moto over Ryan Hughes. Hughes, to the roar of the fans, pushing his wounded machine over the finish line before collapsing from exhaustion. In 1996, it's the 250s with the final event title chase. Once thought untouchable defending champion Jeremy McGrath versus the focused and determined points leader, Jeff Emig. The heavyweights of motocross square off today at the Steel City Showdown. Both moto warriors with visions of the glories and riches the championships bring. The riders on the parade lap getting ready for our 250 Moto #1 from Steel City, and the record crowd, David, is so excited right now.
It's going to be good, and something that I noticed a little different, LaRocco, in between Emig and McGrath. I've noticed a lot of times this year McGrath and Emig have started next to each other. It's a little different today. They have first two picks to the line, but elected not to start next to each other.
David, how do these young men ignore the pressure with so much on the line?
You can't. It's just about impossible. You just try to focus on all the things that got you there, and you try to visualize the day going perfect, everything going as planned, and then focus on that. It's tough to do. I'm nervous right now, and I'm not even down there.
I talked with them earlier.
Unfortunate circumstances have put me in this situation. You know, I'm 2 points down behind Emig, and if it weren't for last week, I wouldn't be in this position. So I'm happy about that. But I mean, I think the pressure's really not on me. I think it's been a long time since Jeff's won a championship in '92, and I've won several since then, so I think I'm kind of used to it. So, I mean, after all, I am in second. I am the underdog at the moment.
I felt a little more nervous last week than I do this week. You know, it's just like going and racing like an individual race now, a local as such, where it's, look, whoever does better on the day is going to win this 250 National Championship.
As Jeff Emig told us last week, this is as good as it gets, coming right down to the final event, just 2 points separating the two contenders. Both camps, really, David, trying to act just as business as usual.
Well, that's exactly what they're trying to do, try to act normal, but believe me, they're all feeling it inside. Everybody, there's a lot of tension in the pits.
And starts mean so much, especially between these two riders. They have the majority of the hole shots between them. Jeff Emig, more successful later in the season. They're off for the first moto. Emig with a good cut to the inside. Emig will get the hole shot. Where is Jeremy? Big pile up in turn one, and I believe that was Brian Swink that went down along with Greg Albertine.
Jeremy was lucky to get out of there. He just positioned himself perfect, stayed just to the inside of Albertine and went down. Jeremy came out smelling like a rose there. Now the battle is set. Both those guys right together. I don't think they're going to get a challenge from behind. They got too much business to do at hand. They're not even going to worry about what's going on behind them.
Well, the eyes are all going to be focused on these two riders the rest of the way. Jeff Emig, getting the hole shot, has the advantage. In years past, David, Emig, less mature, less championship of an attitude, would not be able to hold a lead like this with the dominant Jeremy McGrath right behind him.
Well, I think that's the key, though. It's in years past. Lately, Jeff has the confidence. He doesn't worry about what's going on behind him, although today's a little bit different situation. You can bet he's really nervous, but he's got the start he needs. Pressure's on Jeremy right now. He's the one that's behind. He's the one that's got to find a way around to hopefully pick up a 1-point lead going to that second moto.
If he hopes to get the championship again, it is a must-win for Jeremy McGrath as he cuts into the backside of Jeff Emig now. Emig trying to hold his own as we go to the helicopter shot to see the lines. Jeremy McGrath to the inside, has the edge, and oh my goodness, already Jeremy has made the break himself. Here comes Emig right back again. Can he re-secure the lead? Ooh, he almost lost it right there as his toe caught and went backward. It looked like it might even hit the tire of Jeremy McGrath.
Yeah, Jeremy almost ran into the foot, and if he didn't, of Emig, that could have been they could have both gone down right there. But what an aggressive move by Emig. See Stanton right there telling Jeremy, use your head, just be patient, long moto, and wear him down. He's done it before, but I think that was a significant move right there. Jeremy caught him, passed him, probably figured, okay, now I'm in control. After last week, won both motos, going away, but Emig is here to fight. Got him right back, and that will mess with your confidence.
Boy, a battle of the minds underway, as well as a battle on the track with Jeff Emig and Jeremy McGrath. Now the two are significantly pulling away from the third-place rider.
And that's going to do a lot for Jeff Emig's confidence, too. What a relief. A little mistake there by Jeremy, too, to get passed by Jeremy, then to pass him right back and reestablish the lead, and then to look over your shoulder. See that you got a little gap now. That's going to help.
The end of the first lap, it's Emig and McGrath battling it out. Rich Taylor, a surprise third, with Mike LaRocco in fourth and Hughes in fifth. We'll be back.
First.
The inside. Front wheel almost misses the berm, but he makes the pass stick and closes in on Kevin Windham, who was the early leader. Windham just looks over and realizes Hughes is coming, gets out of the way. Windham was no match for Lamson either, as he moved around into second and kept the pressure on Ryan Hughes the whole moto. But Hughes wins it, and that tied the points between motos. So whoever won the second moto would win the title, and Lamson got the whole shot he needed. Let it wire to wire. Hughes kept the pressure on, picked up the pace, but so did Lamson, who went on to take his first ever 125 title. And in one of the most dramatic finishes ever, Hughes, who had broken a chain about 100 yards before the finish, had to push his bike up the hill to the checkered flag and collapsed in exhaustion, as Lamson celebrated his first ever 125 #1 plate.
We get back to the 250 action as the leaders out in front battling it out. We've got a battle for third right now as Mike LaRocco gets around Rich Taylor, and there's Ryan Hughes, number 5 in the mix. Ryan Hughes also getting by Taylor. That could be an interesting battle. Ryan Hughes too far back to help his teammate Jeff Emig, but these two going at it could provide lots of action.
Well, you never know. The way Hughes is riding and the way he rode here last year, just because he didn't win the title didn't mean he wasn't going fast. If he can catch up and pass McGrath, that'll really give a cushion to Emig for the second moto.
Taylor holding them back just a bit, and that's probably why the two leaders have an approximate 10 to 11 second lead on third place Mike LaRocco. LaRocco getting an overall win in Washougal this year, while Ryan Hughes, his best finish was at Millville, a second place in which he had a great ride there, a 2-2.
Well, the rougher the track, the better, and it was rough there and hot and humid, and he had a good performance. And he just kind of had an up and down season, and part of it is the concentration is just not there. The focus isn't there because he knows that even if he has a great ride, he still can't do anything in the title.
Back to the breathless action between Emig and McGrath now. The defending champion, the red bike in back of the green bike, the Kawasaki of Jeff Emig.
Jeremy messing up that corner a little bit. That's where Emig actually got a little sideways in the first lap. Jeremy almost ran into him. Now it's Jeremy that's starting to make the little mistakes. Emig on a roll right now, just starting to pull away.
This experience of gunning for a title in the last day is not new to Jeff Emig. He came from behind to win in the final moto, the 125 title in 1992.
There's a lot of similarities in the fact that I was down a whole bunch of points, and right at the end I caught up. And just like in '92, the final race, this is what counts. You know, whoever can put it together the best today is going to be the national champion. And I mean, I'd like to think that I'm in pretty good, or I'd like to think that I'm pretty good in these types of situations. So we'll see how the outcome is.
A lot more confident, not just a cocky, but a cocky mixed with a little confidence now. Jeff Emig. Last week, I liked what he had to say. Davey asked him about the track today being Jeremy's favorite. He goes, well, we'll see.
He certainly has shown a championship maturity, especially in this race, maintaining top speed with no mistakes, with Jeremy McGrath right on his tail. Jeff Emig leading Moto 1 here in the 250s. A real head-to-head battle. That's Hughes and LaRocco coming around the corner.
Hughes gotten around LaRocco somewhere on the track. I thought he went fast here, and he's proven that he's faster than LaRocco, and he's actually opened up a little bit of a gap. And you know, Art, they're not that far behind the leaders, so it's possible that Ryan Hughes could play a major role in the outcome of this title, just make it easier on his teammate.
Hughes last year rode this track on the edge with every turn.
That's pretty normal for him, though. For most guys, that'd be a little scary and, you know, be kind of labeled as riding over your head. But for Hughes, he rides like that. He just pours his heart into it and rides with so much determination that getting a little out of shape here and there doesn't really bother him.
Well, if it wasn't for that broken chain at the end, it might have been a real close 1-2 finish in the final moto. Jeff Emig, our leader. It doesn't take long for number 1 to come in the picture.
Jeremy's actually closed that gap back up just a little bit. He had that one spot on the track where Emig was leaving the door wide open. In fact, that's the corner right there coming in. Jeff comes in nice and tight. Jeremy squares it, cuts across the ruts. Starting to try a little different lines here and there now, and actually close the gap back up, keeping the pressure on Emig. That's what he's got to do. There's a long time left to go in this moto, so he's not in bad shape just yet, but coming down to the wire, he's going to need be a lot closer than this.
McGrath needing only a 17th in the first moto to clinch the title here last year. In second place, battling with Jeff Emig. We'll be back with more 250 action from Moto 1 in Steel City right after these words. In Moto 1 of the 250s, Jeff Emig and Jeremy McGrath. The action has certainly tightened up, David.
Jeremy's right there, and it's got to make Jeff nervous. I thought in the opening portion of the moto, Jeff had to be pretty relaxed and relieved to be able to get back past Jeremy after he passed him and pull out a little lead, and it kept it for a while, but Jeremy, it's in a must-win situation. Emig had to expect that, but he was hoping it wouldn't happen, and sure enough, it has.
There's a 3-point difference between first and second place. You see Jimmy Button going down in the track. Everybody just hopes that doesn't interrupt the championship chase.
Right, well, I think the leaders have already gone by. It looks like kind of a blind spot there. I'm sure the flaggers are telling him what to do. Now everything's out of the way, but it doesn't look too good for Button there. He seems to be in some pain right now.
Why is this a must-win for Jeremy McGrath? Well, he goes into it with a 2-point deficit, yes, but there's a 3-point difference between first and second place. If they stay like they are now, that means he would be 5 points down. That means Emig could take a second place in the next moto and still win the title.
And the way he's riding today, that's certainly a possibility, and you know that Ryan Hughes would not factor into that. He would do whatever he could to make sure his teammate got in second, block for him if he had to. That's happened before. Don't think it won't.
Mike LaRocco once again passing Ryan Hughes, number 5, so LaRocco has moved into third place.
He way over jumped that double jump going into the corner. I was trying to figure out, am I on a different side of the racetrack here or what happened? Normally they just land at the top of that and kind of shoot into the corner. He jumped way up into the corner. Coming out of the corner prior to that, Hughes is the mechanic watching. Ryan made a bunch of mistakes, back end danced around quite a bit, so he kind of fell out of his rhythm for the moment, and Rocco took advantage.
Larry Ward is currently behind the 3rd and 4th place riders. Ward finishing up the season on really a high note for him as far as the outdoors are concerned. He got a 4th at Buchanan, a 3rd Unadilla and Troy. Had a tough time in Millville before he came back with a 5th and a 4th place finish in the last 2 races.
Shoot, if you just count his second moto finishes, he'd be looking good in the title.
He really would.
He's been going good in the second moto, making that adjustment. Whatever it takes between motos, coming out strong.
Larry, of course, signing once again for next year with Honda of Troy. As we go back to the leaders, Jeff Emig and Jeremy McGrath starting to come into Lapperville here for a while. That could affect the standings.
That could affect. It's a nightmare for Emig, and it's an advantage for McGrath. Typically when the leaders, and I've talked about this before, but when the leaders start to catch the lappers, a lot of times they don't realize they're coming, so that'll be to the disadvantage of Emig, and by the time they see Emig, then they move right over for McGrath.
McGrath coming off 2 wins. Let's go down to Davey Coombs now, who's with Skip Norfolk, to see about the McGrath strategy.
All right, Skip. Not a lot of lap riders here at Steel City. Is Jeremy worried about that?
Well, no, you know, if you're out front, that's good for you, but if you're in second where we're at, you're kind of wishing to have some guys out there to race and slow things up and take the leader off his pace. But this way, it's racing. You know, the best guy's going to obviously win here this moto, barring anything weird happening. We're down to 5, maybe 6 laps. They're pretty close on time, so it's going to have to happen now or it won't happen at all.
You know, this is the first time this year I've really seen Skip Norfolk that truly concerned.
Yeah, the first time I've seen him sweating, too. I know it's hot out there, but this situation doesn't make it any better. Jeremy's got to get on it right now.
The challenge is there. Jeff Emig seemingly going through these lappers like they weren't there.
And Jeff has been just incredible coming out of all the corners. He's been getting out a little early, getting on the power. Notice Jeremy's been, look at that, he gets out of there, hooks it up straight, puts the bike straight up and down, so you got a wider contact patch and better traction. Jeremy's been sliding around a little bit more.
It's Jeff Emig still holding the lead here in Moto 1 on Jeremy McGrath. We'll be back for the race for the checkers in a moment. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Davey Coombs from Steel City, USA in Delmont, Pennsylvania for the final round, and it's coming right down to this one. In Moto 1, Jeff Emig on the final lap. It's not that easy an item to win back-to-back 250 titles. In fact, it hasn't been done since Jeff Stanton in 1989 and 1990. That's what Jeremy McGrath is gunning for. He wants that #1 plate back. He's going to have to do it in the second moto, it looks like.
He's going to have some luck already. Looks like Emig's starting to do a little crossing up and starting to feel relaxed. He's got a pretty good lead over Jeremy. Jeremy may have just decided there's no way in heck I'm going to beat him in this first moto. So save the energy and figure out what I got to do to win the second moto and just hope things play out behind me to work in my favor.
This would give Emig a 5-point lead going into the final moto of the season. That doesn't mean that he can relax, though, David.
Absolutely not. This is a great win. It's going to put him 5 points up. He'll be a little more relaxed in the pits between motos, but if Jeremy wins the next moto, he's still got to finish second. Otherwise, they'll tie, and that tie will go to Jeremy with the most wins on the season.
Only a short period of time now before Jeff Emig turns that corner and sees the checkered flag. Very popular here at the Delmont track. Jeff Emig has won the first moto. Boy, what an advantage that is for this young man. Jeff Emig, Jeremy McGrath finishing second. Mike LaRocco holding on to third, with Hughes and Ward rounding out the top 5. For the top 10, it's Palmer, Henry Taylor, Keeney, and Doug Dubach. Let's go down to Davey Coombs now with our winner.
Jeff, the first round of the chess match is over. You beat him.
It feels real good. You know, we were going fast. Just trying to keep my lines and learn new ones along the way. So, you know, because I knew that he'd be out to get me there on that first lap, and he did. Unfortunately, I got him right back.
Yeah, we saw that. That was a really close, and you almost landed on him off that jump.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, where neither one of us is going to give up. And, you know, if we happen to come together, well, you know, then that's just part of racing, I guess.
Now, for the second moto, you still got to get second if Jeremy wins. Do you feel up to it?
Sure. Well, I feel like winning. That's what I came here today. You know, the only way to guarantee the championship is to win both motos, and that's what I plan to do.
Well, now the pressure is squarely on the shoulders of the defending champion, Jeremy McGrath. He has to come back big in that second moto, and Davey is with him now.
Jeremy, that was just about as perfect as a race as anyone could ride, but it wasn't perfect enough.
Yeah, it's true. You know, Jeff got out in front. I got right behind him. I passed him first lap, or actually maybe it was the second lap, and he kind of like psychoed back by me. So then I was behind him. I rode a good race. I was pushing as hard as I could without being erratic and making too many mistakes. It's just he wasn't making any mistakes either. So, you know, it's just one of those things. I mean, I was trying my hardest, and he was trying his hardest, and that's the way it goes.
I think Jeremy there just looks like he was surprised by the aggressiveness of Jeff Emig, and it appears that he just didn't come ready to duke it out, and Emig did. Let's go back to Davey.
Mike, that was a solid ride for third here in the first moto.
Yeah, kind of boring. I didn't get off to a good pace at the beginning, and I let those guys get away. They were battling hard, and I'm just gonna have to, you know, make some changes and figure something out for round number 2.
If you're gonna play the spoiler, who would you want to be the spoiler for?
Actually, it's a tough call. I don't really care to see either one of them win. Jeremy wins too much, and I really like Jeff, so I want to go out there and win the moto and let them suit out themselves.
It was LaRocco that Emig took that 125 title away from on the final event in '92. We'll be back in a moment. The head confrontation in Moto 2, they're going over that bike tooth and nail.
Looks like they're just changing the oil and changing the clutch. They got enough people there to change everything if they need to.
Art Ekman along with David Bailey and Davey Coombs. Jeff Emig now with a 5-point lead going into moto number 2, but it is still a very tense situation as far as the title is concerned.
You can feel it in the air, and I don't know who was more nervous at the starting line for the first moto, me or Emig or McGrath. Really, I've been there. I know how it feels, and now 5 points down, McGrath has got to win the second moto. And if he does, Emig has got to finish second. If he finishes third, the title will still go to McGrath.
With all the focus on the 2 top contenders, what's it like being in Albertino or LaRocco?
It's no good. You don't even want to. You can't win the title anymore, so why even be here? And you just don't want to get in between those guys and affect the outcome of the series. You just want to be way ahead or way behind them.
Emig's teammate Ryan Hughes out with an injury here in Moto 2.
Right, it's a foot injury, and I'm not sure how serious it is yet, but it's not going to really ruin his season. It hasn't been that good of a season for him, but he's on the Trophy to Nations team. So if it's serious enough, he would probably be yanked from that team, and probably it'd be a smart idea to put Emig on it.
He's the alternate. Let's go down to the starting line now. As these riders contemplate the second moto, back in history, 1982 was the slimmest margin of victory for the 250s. A 3-point advantage, Donnie Hansen over Rick Johnson.
I remember that. Johnson had a huge lead going in, and he wanted to win the race. He got so caught up in that, he jumped too far off this big ski jump downhill and broke his front wheel and ended up losing that title. Learned his lesson, though. He won quite a few more after that.
The game plan for Jeremy McGrath is simple. Win. The bike's revving up, getting ready to go here for Moto number 2 now for the 250s. They're off. The all-important hole shot. Look at the acceleration on the inside by Emig, and he brakes just in time for the hole shot. Where's Jeremy McGrath? He got pinched off there in that first turn.
I think he avoided all that cluster in the second corner, though. He went wide. But this is a nightmare for McGrath right now. Emig out in front. Jeremy's somewhere maybe 10th, 15th, as best I can tell.
Emig, Henry, Albertine, Taylor, Keeney, Bradshaw, Palmer, the Skoll Privateer winner Palmer, they're all ahead of number 1.
And Jeremy is going to have his work cut out. See how many riders have gone through there, and it's not because the track's not prepared nice. It's been perfect all day, but it's the last moto of the day, and it's the driest, and all these guys are going to kick up some dust, and Jeremy's going to barely be able to see.
Henry and then Larry Ward, second and third right now as we see the leaders go through. And then the rest of the pack. Mike LaRocco, an atrocious start.
Jeremy already starting to work his way by. That's Doug Dubach. Still, he's getting roosted. He's got to take different lines, and the vision through here where the track's watered a little bit more, it's much better, but in some of the areas where a little bit of dust kicks up, it's hard to see. It's easier for us than it is when you're out there.
Battling with Corey Keeney right now, and you can see the roost. A great camera shot there.
Right, and while he's trying to fight his way through these guys, Emig's pulling away. Saw Emig just go by the other way. That's a big lead. We figure these guys are pretty much even today. How the heck's he going to make that up? He's going to have to dig deep now.
Early in the race with Emig really at top speed. Is it to a disadvantage to be behind slower riders than, say, faster riders?
Well, as long as he's moving past him like this, it's not a problem. And that's why you see him so desperate trying to get by these guys early. Because later in the race, yes, they can slow you down a little bit because their pace is slower. If you're behind him in a section like this, where Jeremy's capable of going a lot faster, you got to just sit there and wait. You're impatient, just trying to get around. But it's not that easy to get past guys like Bradshaw, and we'll find out pretty soon. Also, Albertine's up there this time, and he's not going to make it easy.
Henry, Ward, and Albertine. Second, third, and fourth.
Good battle between these guys. Ward almost running over Henry's foot. Henry just taking the best lines. Ward trying everything to get around. He's got a lot of pressure from Albertine, so he just wants to put Henry between them.
Doug Henry coming back to win a moto at Washougal, and what a great comeback year that's made it. Jeff Emig is our leader with Doug Henry in second place. In seventh, behind Bradshaw, is Jeremy McGrath. Back to Steel City for the finale of the 250s, Moto number 2. Larry Ward, Doug Henry, Albertine, all battling it out here behind the leader. And the leader, of course, is Jeff Emig. Henry, number 15, has the edge on the freight train. Larry Ward, number 6, and Albertine, who's looked fast but has had trouble staying up this year, is number 16. These are some interesting riders between Emig and Jeremy McGrath, let alone Bradshaw.
Albertine goes wide around Larry Ward, cuts him off right there. It's not going to make Ward very happy, but, you know, he left the door open. That's what you get. Now Albertine, look how quick he caught Henry. Seems to be the guy. He's going as fast as Emig right now, perhaps.
Roger DeCoster's main goal coming into this season was to improve that 250 program, and it's obvious by the performances of Greg Albertine and Mike LaRocco, both winning overalls this year, that has become a reality.
Yeah, the bike is good. It's no longer a problem. Last year it wasn't so good. The 125 was great. Always has been. 250 suffered, and they've made up the difference, and now...
Whoa, Albertine really testing Henry now.
Yeah, these guys are gaining confidence. Having wins like that, it helps Roger's position at Suzuki, and as well as the confidence of the team. Everyone knows that bike's capable of winning.
Well, it certainly helps the supporters that are paying the bills. They get excited as well. Jeff Emig, our leader, is pulling a good lead. You saw him go by the picture down in the lower portion there as Doug Henry in second. Albertine in third. They battle it out. Ian Harrison, that's Albertine's mechanic. He's been through a lot this year.
If I'm Emick, I want to get way ahead of all these guys. I don't want any riders around me, because if I've got them there and Jeremy catches up, the potential to finish third is a very real possibility. I don't want that.
Davey Coombs is in the pits. Let's check out that Emick camp.
Jeremy, at what point do you start telling Jeff where McGrath is?
I'm not going to tell him where McGrath is. He just wants to win this race, and I want him to win this race. He's been working really hard, and he wants his championship, and he knows what he has to do, and I don't think it matters where McGrath is.
Otherwise, so far, so good then.
So far, so good.
I would say so, as Jeremy McGrath, now trying to pick off the riders, has moved all the way up to Larry Ward. He's wasted little time weeding through the riders, but now he's got some real toughies in front of him.
Well, Albertine will be tough. I don't know. I think he'll be able to get around Larry Ward, because Larry Ward's a little bit more predictable. Now, I'm not saying Larry Ward's slow. Don't get me wrong. Larry is definitely quick, but Albertine is a little bit more erratic, and he's the kind of guy that can just turn it on a little bit more and kind of catch you by surprise, same way Emick did to Jeremy in the first moto. That's going to be tough. And Henry, well, nobody's got around him yet, so he, of course, will be tough.
It was interesting when they were teammates before Henry's accident last year. They were battling for the points lead as teammates. There goes McGrath on the easy outside move on an off camber. He was able to keep his momentum around that corner very well. And look at Albertine, cuts to the inside of Henry. Albertine now has moved into second place, as Jeremy McGrath now will take on number 15, his former teammate Doug Henry.
I think maybe Albertine got a glance at Jeremy coming and said, well, if I can get around Henry, that'll buy me a little bit more time before I have to deal with him. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but certainly Jeremy coming as strong as he is had to motivate all this whole pack to pick up the pace.
Now, this is a tough pack for Jeremy McGrath to get through. Steve Lamson certainly felt this pressure last year of having to win, and we asked him before the race about his thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, for the fans and, you know, every one of us, I mean, it's a great thing to come here, and I think a lot of people came here because they knew it was going to be a battle to the end, and yeah, I don't think the spectators realize all the pressure that's on these guys, you know, especially, you know, Emick after catching up and, you know, leading coming into this race, which he might have the most pressure on his shoulders. And, of course, Jeremy, you know, he's coming, you know, winning up till, you know, he hurt himself. And, you know, that's kind of a freak deal there. You know, he DNF'd a moto and a couple races. So, you know, it's interesting. And it's tough for both of those guys. I mean, they got a lot of pressure on them right now, just like me last year.
Well, those are the two guys that really share a lot of track information, too, as teammates. You can't ask for better teammates than Steve Lamson and Jeremy McGrath. Right now, Jeremy McGrath looking for the opportunity, almost jumped off the course there to get by Doug Henry.
He's knocking on the door. Henry knows it. Be interesting to see if he kind of just moves over just a little bit to make things easier. It seemed like that's what Larry Ward did a little while back through the mechanics area. Jeremy's definitely got the pressure on. You can see how far away Albertine, he's already heading up the hill now.
Here goes Jeremy now. He's got the clean drag strip move on Doug Henry.
Now looks over his shoulder at Doug like, thanks for not making that too tough. And he didn't lose much time being back there. Henry's still got a good pace going. Now that Jeremy's into third, it's interesting too, because Albertine has actually closed up on Emick a little bit. And as long as he's close to Emick, if Jeremy can catch up and pass him, and Albertine does too, Jeremy's going to get the title. You know, in the Honda pits, they're all crossing their fingers, hoping that plays out.
Jeremy McGrath now trying to pick up the space between his bike and number 16, that of Greg Albertine. Jeremy looking a lot smoother in this moto in the catch-up than he did in the first moto to me.
Yeah, you're right. He just looks more aggressive.
Emick, our leader, Albertine and McGrath, the top three. We'll be back now for the race to the checkers in a moment.
Straight talk about hair restoration with Dr. L. Lee Bosley.
What exactly is hair transplantation?
We simply take excess hair follicles from the back of the patient's head, where he usually has more hair than he needs, and we transplant them to the front of his head, where they then grow permanently for the rest of his life.
Why should I do it now?
I've had patients report to me that they have been so dispirited by hair loss that they've stayed home, haven't been going out, and after their hair is restored, it's almost miraculous that they start having dates, start going out, and it's like night and day in terms of having greater confidence and as well a better professional or business life.
Don't wait another day to do something about your hair loss. Call 1-800-414-4900 now for this free guidebook and video from the Bosley Medical Institute. That's 1-800-414-4900. It could be one of the most rewarding calls you ever make.
It was really tough covering Joe's injury. I mean, not only is he an MVP, he's a great brother. It was especially hard on Tom, being Joe's fraternal twin.
When Joe broke his leg, I actually felt it. Not as much as I did.
Now you can get all the scores up to the minute down at the bottom of ESPN2. Bottom Line 2 for constant updates on all the games. Check in weeknights 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Weekends 1 p.m. to 7 a.m. Only on ESPN2.
Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Davey Coombs from Steel City, Delmont, Pennsylvania. Our leader is Jeff Emig. If he holds on to the lead, he wins the 250 title for the season. If he places second, he still has assured himself of a victory. Anything less than that, though, and the crown could go to Jeremy McGrath if Jeremy finishes in front.
Right now, he still seems pretty focused. He was awfully aggressive coming through the mechanics area there, but you can see right there in that shot how close Albertine's getting.
Down to 4 seconds, and Jeremy McGrath is about 5 seconds behind him. Still lots of time for this battle royal to continue. Behind them is Henry, Ward, and Bradshaw.
Bradshaw caught these guys out of nowhere. I didn't see him in the first few laps. There he is right there. He caught these guys, got a little quicker pace going. He may be on the same pace as McGrath, just a couple spaces further back in the running. But been a disappointing season for Damon. I know he's capable of a lot more than this. I know he knows that too, and it's hard to tell what it's going to take for him to get him back up there.
David, Bradshaw has shown us coming back after being out a season and a half how increasingly difficult it is sitting out a season or more. You know, you got the hungry young talent out there, but more than that, the sports vets are continually improving. They're moving ahead, able to do more daring feats with the technology advancements and the advancements in conditioning.
And they make a lot less mistakes too, because Bradshaw, I think, probably running about as quick as he was before he retired. And he was definitely a contender before he retired, and now he's just finding that that pace isn't good enough. There's a lot of guys that can run it. Right there, Doug Henry, speaking of mistakes, he just made a big one, came up short on that double jump. But I think Bradshaw was surprised, surprised everybody, surprised me too, to do so well in the first couple of rounds of the Supercross series, but then things kind of settled in, and he realized, man, you can't get by these guys. There's privateer guys, there's the Larry Wards and the independent team riders that are so fast now, and if you get a bad start, working your way to the front is a real challenge.
What a triad here. Doug Henry, Larry Ward, and Damon Bradshaw. Where they're just more riders each day are willing to sacrifice with the conditioning and strength programs.
Now these young guys, a lot of them haven't been hurt.
Oh, there goes Larry Ward leaping over Doug Henry. And Bradshaw gets by him as well.
Yeah, Henry just had a bad half a lap here. He cased that jump, made a few mistakes, and all these guys went by. That's what happens. That's how close this is.
Larry Ward now in 4th place. Bradshaw moves up to 5th. Let's go to Davey.
Dave, this appears to be Damon's last ride for Yamaha in the States. Does he have any extra incentive to go out there?
Well, I guess he had a hard time in the first moto, really bad start, and he got hit with the big rock. I guess he wanted to come here and, you know, try and finish out on a good note. He seems to be riding pretty fast now. He's in a little race with Larry. He looks like he's enjoying himself right now.
How stoked would he be to beat Doug Henry, a guy that looks like the Yamaha's going to keep?
I don't know. I guess for Damon, I'm sure that's something he wants to do. There's no doubt about that, and he appears to be doing it right now.
Emig, our leader, Albertine in 2nd, and Jeremy McGrath in 3rd. We are looking back at 4th and 5th. With Larry Ward and Damon Bradshaw.
You know, Damon coming back too, he's also a little older. He's had a couple of injuries, and that messes with you a little bit too. Look at Doug Henry. I mean, the injury, of course, that was very severe, but it really took the edge off. Doug was so competitive, beating McGrath at times, two-time national champion, moving into the 250s and battling for the points lead when he went down, and really doesn't have that edge right now. If there's any hesitation in your mind from past experiences, you're off the bat.
Jeremy McGrath is pulling up now onto Greg Albertine, and we might have a real 1-2-3 battle for the title here.
Well, that's horrible news for Emig. You see him going down the hill there, just going by the other way. if Jeremy pushes Albertine and they push each other up to Emig, boy, coming down to the wire in this moto, perhaps with lappers, the possibility for Jeremy to get Albertine between himself and Emig and take that title away is that's a very real possibility.
Jeremy McGrath, of course, last year winning the 250 Supercross and 250 National Outdoor. Just 8 riders have gotten that 250 double, and Ben Bridges writing us a letter informing us that one of those was you back in 1983, David.
Cool. Forgot about that.
Yeah, I'll bet you did.
No, I did. I guess I did. Well, that's nice to be in this kind of company.
Of course, Jeff Stanton did it 3 times and Bob Hanna twice. Jeremy McGrath, if he should capture a win here today, it would be his 2nd time. Pennsylvania, Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Davey Coombs down in the pits. Here's Kyle Lewis and Mike LaRocco. Unfortunate for Mike, he's back in 10th place. Kyle Lewis is probably his last national race. He's going to Japan to race for the Japanese team Suzuki over there. A great money contract for Kyle, a weathered veteran. Mike LaRocco will be back with Suzuki next year, a final year of a 2-year deal.
Actually, it's been a pretty good ride for LaRocco so far, because in our first lap, just following all the back markers through, all of a sudden number 8 pops up. So he went down in that first turn or second turn little melee they had there and caught all the way up to 10th. So not a bad performance so far. He's still got a little ways to go. He may be able to get up inside the top 5.
Yeah, with Albertine having an 11th in the first moto, LaRocco's got a good shot at a decent overall position. LaRocco putting the challenge now to Kyle Lewis. Cuts inside with a nice little hippity hop.
Look at that.
Now
battling.
It's muscle time.
That was great. Well, Lewis just was trying to counter everything. LaRocco's like, come on, twice I had you. Get out of the way. Trying to get his elbow up in front of him, and it worked.
Who had the sharpest elbows when you raced?
It wasn't me. I just stayed out of all that. Johnson and I got into some stuff in '83. It turned out to be a bad year for him. That was the year he dislocated his hip. But before all that happened, we knocked each other down 4 or 5 times pretty bad. And it got to the point where finally we just walked up to each other at the starting line and said, okay, enough is enough. Truce. And he goes, okay.
When was the tightest finish you ever had with Supercross?
Supercross in 1983, that same year, was with Mark Barnett. I had a 10-point lead going in.
Whoa.
But turned out that I only won by a few points. And
3 points, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was no good. At one point in the race, actually Mark Barnett went down the first corner. So I started just kind of put it on cruise control, figuring, oh, it's going to be a piece of cake. And Barnett rode probably the race of his life. And fortunately for me, Danny Magoo Chandler also rode the race of his life and kept Barnett back there for a while. He couldn't get around him, and he couldn't pick up the spots he needed to close in and beat me for the title. And it wasn't that Magoo helped me. He was just riding like Magoo. That's what he did.
Yeah. Jeremy McGrath in 3rd place, trying to battle up, trying to get closer to Albertine, who just went by. Skip Norfolk pointing at Greg Albertine, saying, go get that guy. When Jeremy McGrath got into 3rd place, getting around Doug Henry, he was 8 seconds off the leader. And he is pulled up to within about 5 seconds from this man, Jeff Emig.
What it really boils down to, I think, this year, Art, is that when Emig has had to perform and had to get the start or get the moto win, he's been able to do it. So it's kind of, the role is kind of reversed. That's what Jeremy's done all this last 3 or 4 years, and looks like now it may be Emig's turn.
Oh, this is a great championship run. Jeff Emig, Greg Albertine, the former 3-time world champion, playing a part in this. And then Jeremy McGrath. From up above, let's see the line that Jeff Emig takes.
Pretty smooth down the inside of that corner. It gets into the berm. He's riding great. This is the Jeff Emig type of track. Just real fast, big sweepers, big jumps, and he's riding perfect today.
Davies with Jeff Emig's dad.
Mr. Emig, we seen you out there cheering for Jeff. How do you feel right now?
Well, pretty excited, I'd say. Just trying to help cheer him on, so he can win this moto and probably get the championship. So I'm just trying to provide whatever I can to help him.
Your kid is riding cool as ice today.
Well, he's pretty patient, pretty disciplined type individual, and he knows what he's got to do, and he's been focused all week, so he knows what he's got to do, and let's hope he does it.
All right, we wish you luck, Mr. Emig.
Thank you.
Well, the last time Jeff Emig went down to the final moto, winning the 125 title, he dedicated that race to his father for what his father and family sacrificed to get him where he is today.
I'm happy for Jeff, and his dad looks awfully proud. I remember back in those days when you know, I could enjoy this with my family, and it feels great. Right now, Jeff's he's got just enough of a lead where he can start to think, man, what if something happens to my bike? You know, I mean,
that's just it. I was thinking anything can happen in this race right now, and with Jeremy so close.
I remember last year Ryan's chain came off. I mean, that's weird, but it happens.
Is being brought to you by the reigning Supercross 125 and 250 outdoor champions, Honda. Come ride with us. The season coming down to the final moto as Jeff Emig comes around the finish line, getting the white flag for the final lap. Albertine has really pushed Emig in second place. Jeremy McGrath has been unable to really mount a terrific opportunity against Albertine.
Oh, he's done all that he can do. You've seen him close the gap. He charged hard, and I mean, he came from a terrible start, but you can see a little bit of celebration already going on in the Kawasaki pits.
I don't know if I'd pat on the back yet.
Well, I would. I mean, if you're Emig right now, you're feeling great. He's already got those two lappers behind him. He's just a little glance over his shoulder, realizes the gap is maybe even a little bit bigger now because Jeremy realizes, well, you know, it's over pretty much. Unless Emig falls down or breaks down, there's nothing he can do.
Or unless you break a chain like Hughes and come in third instead of second.
The irony of that, Emig was Hughes' teammate last year, so that could be on his mind.
Right now, I think he's thinking more positive things, don't you? He's got thrills inside of him. Jeff Emig could be only the fourth rider to win a 125 and 250 national title. That seems incredible to me. Jeff Ward, Bob Hanna, Mike Kudrowski. There's two Kawasaki riders out of those three.
Well, he can just about coast there now. You can hear the crowd. They realize what's happened here. Jeff Emig has beaten Jeremy McGrath.
And the Jeff Froh crew, you saw the big sign out there hanging out as he takes the jump. Part of Jeff Emig's fan club almost getting on the track. You know, we don't want to take too much away from Jeremy McGrath either. One of the greatest riders the sport has ever seen, and he's proved that. He proved it last year winning this very title. But it's a tribute to number 2 Jeff Emig. He has stepped up to the level.
He has. And this is what happens when you stay in the game and keep the pressure on and don't lose your focus. Don't lose sight of your goals. And he said last year after this race, he goes, well, this is my first year on the 250s, second, it's not bad. I got to improve. Next year I'm going to win it. Looks like he's going to.
How many people believed him at the time?
I was going, well, that's a great goal there, Jeff, but I didn't have a lot of confidence. In fact, you know, before this race, you know, during the week, I was thinking, well, I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff pulled this off, but I wouldn't bet against Jeremy. And now that it's actually happening and it looks like it might be Emig's title, I'm just a little bit surprised. Very impressed with the way he's ridden.
From up above, the helicopter shot as the turns are winding down to very few now for Jeff Emig as he heads toward the finish line. What a proud moment it has to be for this young man and for the entire Team Kawasaki. Yes, he's saying to himself, I did do it. Greg Albertine off to his right, congratulating him and his many fans. He's just exploding inside. The next step in a wonderful career already. He's wondering right now, just how high can I get? It's going to be a while before he comes down. Jeff Emig, our winner. Albertine, second. Morocco fighting back for 7th, gives him a 3rd overall. Let's get down to that winner, though. Jeff Emig, he's with Davey.
All right, we're down here in the winner's circle with our 1996 250 national champion, Jeff Emig. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I couldn't have done it without my mechanic, Jeremy Albrecht, and my team, Kawasaki. You know, I don't know what to say. You know, we got a lot of seconds this year, and you know, coming into this race, second wasn't going to be good enough. And I was really focused on my starts and just riding perfect races. And I mean, I can't tell you just how happy I am right now. I mean, I mean, like, it hasn't soaked in yet, but I mean, I just feel so good.
Well, those were two totally perfect races. A lot of times, like in the Supercross Series and early in the National Series, you'd have trouble with McGrath behind you. No problem today, either moto.
Well, you know, Jeremy's been, you know, he's been great, you know, the last 4 or 5 years, and his Supercross skills, you know, are just, you know, they're just super. But you know, I got a lot of seconds this year, like I said, and you know, I mean, I just knew that I had to come out and just win the motos. So.
Are you stoked to have your dad here watching you?
Yeah, I'd like to say hi to you know, my dad, sister, and everybody else, my brother at home, and you know, my trainer John Hall. There's a lot of people that are involved, you know, like in winning you know, a national championship like this, and you know, like the list is long, but you know, but you all know who you are, and I thank you so much.
An emotional moment for our new 250 champion. Greg Albertine might have made it possible by pushing Emig. Let's go back to Davey now, who's with Greg.
Greg, you got in the middle of the championship battle there, but it didn't have any effect on the outcome.
No, I didn't. I was hopefully going to put a big spanner in the works today, but went down in the first turn of the first motor, so had pretty much ruined my chances. But I felt good out there, and I got to really congratulate Jeff. He was really a worthy champion, and you know, unfortunately, there's got to be a loser, but Jeremy's won enough. And you know, my RM250 was really running great out there. I felt very confident. I'd just like to thank my mechanic, Ian. He always puts in 100%.
Back in America in 1997?
Definitely. I'm having a great time, and hopefully going to win a few more next year.
Emig 8 moto wins to Jeremy's 16 moto wins. Emig's 4th overall to Jeremy's 7th overall. But it was those second place finishes that Emig talked about that was the big difference. Let's go back to Davey now with Jeremy.
Jeremy, you went out like a champion. You gave it all you had.
Yeah, I was just didn't get to start again, and I was back that time. Jeff did one of his classic moves, you know, cut over on me. But he rode a great race. He did what he had to do. I came out here, and you know, I have no regrets. I was at home doing what I had to do and making sure that I had no regrets after today if I didn't win, and that's just the way it works out.
How would things have been different without the injury?
Well, it would have been much different. You know, I had a 50-point lead. That's a whole race. Believe me, I've learned my lesson from that, and you know, in the previous years, that won't happen.
A quick look back at the most fierce rivalry in a great 1996 season. Jeremy McGrath started off dominating, and then at Millville.
That's obvious from Jeremy's comment that the season would have been completely different had he not had that injury. However, that's part of racing, and Jeff Emig took advantage of it.
Then his first DNF at Washougal, trying to come back and get back into the picture.
Looked like it was all over right here, but he did come back to Binghamton and win both motos, giving himself a mathematical shot at the final round.
Kudos to the new champion, Jeff Emig. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Davey Coombs saying thanks to you fans for another great season of motocross.